Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for episode 9 of this season 1 of the Goosebumps remake, whatever, 2023 show. As many of you know, it's trash. As many of you know, I feel like it's trash. I hate it. But this episode is called Night of the Living Dummy Part 2, and it premiered on November 10th, 2023, which was last Thursday, Friday, technically. It comes out on Thursday night at like 11, but then they say it premieres on Friday. That's a lie to everybody. Anyway, so this episode is, let's see, does it even have the time on here? I think it was roughly 40 minutes, I believe. It's not listed on IMDb, but the last episode, episode 8, like many of us said, felt like what it needed to have as the season finale, because it was a very mediocre, tolerable episode. It wasn't horrible, it wasn't insulting like many of the show's episodes have been so far, but it wasn't great, it wasn't like amazing or shocking or anything. But to me it feels like Disney originally contracted 8 episodes to be made, and then they tacked on like 2 more episodes for no real reason. I'm assuming episode 10 might be better than episode 9, but episode 9 at the end of the day was awful. It was awful. There are many things I said in previous reviews that I do want to counteract now, and I might have to delve into some spoilers just briefly there to talk about that. If you're watching this show, maybe you'll care about these spoilers, maybe you won't, I don't know. I usually try to keep everything spoiler-free in case somebody comes brand new to the channel or brand new to the franchise and they don't want to have everything spoiled, but why would you watch 9 episodes of somebody talking about this on YouTube and not expect spoilers of some sort? So, I'm going to go there just a little bit because I have a lot to say. I have a lot to say, and some of those things are almost impossible to talk about without going too far into spoilers, because there's a lot to be said about what happened here. Where do I even begin? This episode did not need to happen. Episode 10 is not going to need to happen. Episode 8 should have been the end of the season. But I assume they needed a tack on to be able to hopefully drag people into watching a new episode of the season, or a new season if they make it, but God forbid they do, because it's not going to happen. I don't see it happening at all. I could see it being made out of spite, kind of like the new modern Marvel MCU stuff from the same company, Disney, who just like to burn money, basically. So, basically this picks up a little bit in a prologue kind of cold open type of thing about Mr. Bratt before he moved to where the show typically takes place, wherever that's called. I don't even know the name of the town. I don't care enough to memorize it. This is a lot about his past and kind of his future, is what I would say this episode is about, for its main plot. Apparently he was struggling before he moved to where the show typically takes place in Washington State or wherever, and he was about to lose his house, about to get evicted, he lost his job, he had a dog named Fifi, yes, from the Please Don't Feed the Vampire, Give Yourself Goosebumps book, we finally got Fifi in here. Apparently it was his grandmother's dog, and while he's standing there talking to somebody and letting the dog go to the bathroom in the front yard, the dog gets hit by a car. Yeah, Fifi got murdered. Brutally. We didn't get to see it, but it happened. And then we cut to I think it was 6 months later after what happened at the end of episode 8 or something. And Mr. Bratt has been struggling again, and he's trying to basically write a book about the events of what happened in this season. And eventually he gets a call back, and of course he changed a lot of names and whatever. He gets a call back telling him from this agent in New York City that her publishing company want to pick up his book. They're really impressed with it, whatever. And I'm sitting here thinking dude, the ego of these people who created this show, or the AI robot who wrote this show, the ego of these people and this creative team to think season 1's events, storyline, any of that, or even characters for that matter, were good enough for somebody to sell a novel based on, is the greatest proof of how stupid Hollywood is, how stupid Disney is, how stupid Sony is, and how egotistical people like the lady behind the scenes writing this show, for that example, the one who wrote I Am Not Starfire, which I forgot to mention in plenty of my other reviews. This chick is horrible. She does the same trick that every modern day garbage writer does, where they self-insert into everything. She is no different. Her lack of talent is amazing in this show. This is a wonderful example of that. So, we basically have an episode called Night of the Living Dummy Part 2, and eventually Bratt is called by that agent and told that even though they want to pick up his book, They need a better ending. They want more explanation of who Slappy is, what his past is, whatever, which is already the first sin of Goosebumps. You don't ever go too far into the Slappy backstory, even though Slappy Beware did it with R.L. Stine writing it, and it wasn't half bad. But you really don't delve too far into that, too far into a canonical history of this character. You really keep things simple with Goosebumps, and particularly with Slappy, the Haunted Mask, a lot of the monsters. You keep it simple, stupid, you won't have an issue. You don't have to worry about sticking too harsh to rules. You can change things, have new powers for Slappy. They may not show up ever again, but you can do that and it can be kind of fun. This show has experimented around with a couple of things with Slappy, and in this episode they ruin Mr. Brad's character, Justin Long's character, by basically having this character go and find Slappy to help him come up with a better ending for his book. Mr. Brad, you saw how evil this dummy was. You saw the things it could do, the powers it had, its powers of gaslighting and manipulation. Incredible powers. Incredible powers. You've seen this. And you resurrect this thing by once again reading the card incorrectly. He reads the card from the pocket, Karu Marie Odana Loma Malanu Carano, and how does he pronounce it? Malono or something? Why can no one read in this show? Why is there so little care given to this show that people can't go back and watch Dummy 3, Dummy 2, Bride of the Living Dummies, old episodes from way back in the day, and pick up on how to say the freaking thing? If you can read it, it's very clear it's saying Malona. You know, I don't know why people can't read. I don't understand it. It's like the directors and writers and everything are just stupid. They can't... It's not the actor's fault. This is always a director and writer thing. But for some reason, they go out of their way to insult fans even more by specifically having everybody mispronounce the card when they read it. Anyway, I'm going to let that rant go because I've already ranted about that in the original Dummy episode review. Episode 6, I think, is what it was for this channel. No one can read the card. No one can read properly, which is insane to me. This is based on a book series. At least promote reading properly. Brat brings Slappy back, and it's kind of a cool thing. He reads the card incorrectly, and Slappy reassembles himself, all the different parts where he fell off the mountain at the end of episode 8, and he pulls himself together, if you will. And he sits up, and that's it. And he tries to basically tell Mr. Brat, you know, why did you wait so long to save me? It's been like 6 months or whatever. And Slappy is made of wood. I understand Slappy is like a mystical sorcerer entity, whatever, but he's still made of wood, and being out there in the snow and in the weather, some kind of deer would have probably come after him, some kind of woodchuck or squirrel, something would have eaten into his brain a little bit. Something like that would have happened. The weather would have made him crack from all the temperature change. Wood does that. But the writers are New York City babies, and they have no clue what they're talking about. So, they don't know things like that. They don't know how trees work. And, so... This is going to be a harsh review. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm being a negative Nancy today, but good God, it needs to happen. So, Brad has now become a completely garbage character by doing that. And one of the ways that Slappy promises him to make him a better ending and whatever, and to follow his lead on things, is to bring back his stuffed dog, Fifi. Yes, because when your grandmother's dog gets mangled by a car, you definitely have it stuffed. Because that will definitely fix it, you know? But he had his dog, his grandmother's dog, Fifi, stuffed and put up on the wall. And now the dog is back to life. And it happens to be a vampire as well. It's now a vampire, now that Slappy brought her back to life. Which is weird and doesn't make any sense, and I don't understand why it's like that aside from being supposed referencing to the old GYG book, but that's still stupid, it still doesn't make any sense. Does that mean, like many of my friends said, that every time Slappy brings somebody back to life with certain powers, does that mean that they come back as a vampire? Because that's what this would imply to me. I mean, I guess. Whatever, it's a stupid poodle. So Fifi's back, and Fifi leads Mr. Brad out into the woods and starts sniffing the ground at one particular area, and he digs up Candu's, I guess the name is Candu, I don't know what to call it, Candu's grave, casket, whatever you want to call this, the thing we saw teased in episode 6 with Ephraim. He digs it up, brings it into his house instead of just doing whatever he had to do with it right there out in the open. And this is really the main focus of the episode, all the stuff I'm telling you about right now. There is a whole subplot about all of the kids having nothing to do, so they go out to, what is it, Margot? It's gotta be Margot, right? They go out to, like, Margot's mom's house out in, like, Washington State. I don't even know where they're at. I thought they were in Washington State. Apparently they're not. They went somewhere else to see her mom very far away, and they are just kind of hanging out, doing a little bit of partying, that kind of stuff. Again, it's weird seeing teenage party stuff in Goosebumps. But they have that. They have a weird conversation with one chick about the acceptance of queerness, in society. And I'm like, dude, why is this in Goosebumps? It's so misplaced. Everything in this show is so misplaced. But then there's this whole focus, the entire time that we focus on the kids, there's all this relationship drama stuff. And I'm saying all this to get it out of the way before I get to the shocking, horrifically awful, insulting ending at the end of the episode, just so you know. I want to get the teenage crap out of the way. All of it is focused around relationship crap that I could not care about. The only thing they do anything with for anybody in the show is that Lucas is having a hard time of getting over everything that happened 6 months ago, with everything in episode 8 and beyond, or previous, whatever. He's having a hard time. He's scared about losing Isabella, or Margot. Whoever Isabella and Margot are dating, I don't remember. I think Isabella's with Isaiah. Margot and Isabella kind of look the same a little bit for me. So I think Margot and Lucas are together, I think is how it goes. But anyway, there's a whole relationship subplot drama thing that I just could not care less about that's focused on in here in this episode, just like most of the show has been, which is a waste of time and money. Because no one watched Goosebumps for relationships. I've been saying that forever. Anybody who was willing to insert that into Goosebumps were an idiot, plain and simple, because no one cares about stupid teenage drama and romance. It's nothing that anyone wants to see in Goosebumps, or especially in the fandom, for that matter. So, basically, I'm trying to figure out where to even go talking about the kids. They're just talking about their relationships. Lucas, they did a wonderful job with. Lucas is truly, it seems to me, traumatized. He's worried about his mom. He's worried about his girlfriend. He's worried about her leaving him. He's worried about leaving his mom in general because he doesn't feel like it's safe to leave her there by herself, even though she has Mr. Guidance Counselor, or whatever, the man that she was basically cheating his wife with, you know, whatever. Whatever. That stuff is so stupid, it should have never been in the show. But Lucas, the actor playing him once again, is phenomenal. He's really good, and I'm telling you, I think he's going to go places in Hollywood one day because he seems to genuinely have talent. From what I can tell so far, just watching the series, Lucas is the best character for me, but also he is probably the most intriguing performance of the show in general, aside from the guy voicing Slappy. But all of this stuff ends in Lucas and whoever he's dating, Isabella, Margot, whoever it is, getting into an argument and then kind of breaking up. And that was it. You did this whole trip and everything with your whole group of friends. You're going to choose right now to have the argument, you know? He's pretty sure she's going to stay there while he wants to go home. Whatever. I just don't care about this relationship crap. So now that I've covered all of that and gotten it over with, I assume that'll be part of episode 10. Maybe somebody will get killed. I don't know. Maybe there's going to be a regret storyline. Maybe the poor actor who's playing Lucas will finally get some mercy and get out of this show. You know, something like that. I don't know. Anyway, going back to Mr. Bratt. He starts messing around with the can-do coffin that he brought into his house, and Slappy is egging him on. He opens up the coffin and says it smells horrible. Apparently there's a dead body because it's a casket. He reaches inside and finds another card, just like what Slappy has inside of his ventriloquist dummy outfit. And Mr. Bratt reads this. And at this point, my ears perked up because I was like, oh, this is kind of a change up on Slappy a little bit. Maybe he's going to start bringing people back to life and stuff just like he did with Fifi. This could be kind of cool. And they completely ruined it. They completely dropped the ball not even like 5 seconds later after I thought that. And then my friends had told me that episode 9 was one of the worst of the show. Not because of so much the pacing, more as the character stuff, how they ruin certain things. And I didn't know exactly what they were talking about. I would see them mention certain things here and there, and I wasn't completely sure what they were talking about. Okay. I don't even know how to address this. While he reads the card for this can-do dead body that he brought into his house, which makes no sense, Slappy slumps over and a bunch of this smoke stuff, just like when Harold Biddle was possessing Mr. Brad, this smoke and fire stuff come out of Slappy and go into the coffin when Mr. Brad is turned around thinking nothing's going to happen. He goes over to Slappy, starts hitting Slappy, and saying, hey, I need you to continue talking to me. What's going on? Why are you playing dumb? Slappy is no longer Slappy in that body. Apparently, Slappy never existed. Slappy was, as far as I can tell, being like Slappy is a dummy who was possessed by whoever this Condu guy is. His spirit was being preserved in Slappy. Now he's back in his body, the Condu body. I assume is what they're implying here, is that Slappy was never a thing. Condu possessed Slappy's body. Which means, in turn, that Slappy is not Slappy in this show. Maybe that's the reason they chose to not have him walk around, but you had a possessed ventriloquist dummy, so what was the point of not having him walk around to begin with? If he's in full possession, like Harold Biddle was with Mr. Brad, he could make Mr. Brad walk around, he could make Mr. Brad hit himself in the face if he wanted to. Why can Slappy not walk around? This show is so incredibly stupid, and this is why I stand on the point that I swear to God I think this is written by AI. I've said that over and over again throughout these reviews. I'm utterly convinced at this point now that that's what happened. That there is there's no consistency amongst the episodes, the lore, in one season of a television show. There's no consistency because no one was paying attention and no one cared enough to have some passion on this show. The I'm Not Starfire, whatever that chick's horrible book creation, whatever she is, that chick is proving my point about how she is so little in her talent department. When I saw this and realized that now Slappy just is not Slappy, it made me even more mad because, as many of you know, we had the Haunted Mask get ruined in the series because the Haunted Mask turned into Gollum from Lord of the Rings. Then we had not so much the worms. The worms were protected. The Say Cheese and Die camera was protected. We had Slappy, and I think there was something else. Kind of the Perfect School was kind of ruined too. There was something else brought in here. I can't remember off the top of my head. But Slappy was oddly British and couldn't walk anymore, which I had said I didn't mind so much because of how good the voice actor was for Slappy. He's really good. I don't so much like the British accent, but I like the voice. It's very soothing and eerie. I like that about it. But now Slappy is just not Slappy. Now Slappy has been haunted masked by the show. How do you pick out two of the most popular Goosebumps monsters of all time? Two of the most popular Goosebumps episodes, books, anything of all time, and you did this to it. Man, I don't even know how to feel. I'm just so mad and angry about it that now they've ruined another monster that we had ruined quite a while back. Like a month ago, we had Haunted Mask's situation. Now we have this. Disney, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? What were your AI bots thinking? What were your writing teams who came in to edit the scripts thinking? Dude, they completely ruined Slappy. Slappy books aren't always perfect. I'm a big fan of Slappy, as many of you can tell. But Slappy has not always had like amazing books over and over again. There are bad Slappy books out there, don't get me wrong, but this is one of the worst examples of Slappy ever. I don't even know if I want to call him Slappy anymore. Because as far as I know, as far as I can tell, unless episode 10 spends time to clean this up and make it clear, one way or another, as far as I can tell, Condu just preserved his spirit inside of Slappy's body the whole time, and that Slappy's never been alive. But again, it doesn't make any sense why he can't walk and whatever. It's so horrifically stupid in the continuity department that I don't even know what to say. I hate the show. I hate it so bad. I'm so curious what all of the 2023 Goosebumps stands out there, whether you're a fan of mine or not. I would love to hear what you think about this whole thing. I gotta know, what is going to be the new defense of not liking this crap and what they did to Slappy in the show? I want to know. Again, I don't care if you like the show, that's fine. Enjoy what you're going to enjoy. But for the weird shill Disney bots out there who keep coming into my channel and attacking me and calling me names on Reddit and whatever, what's your defense now for ruining Slappy? I would love to hear that down below. You already defended the Haunted Mask by saying, well, it's a different version. What's your version of argument for Slappy? I would love to hear that. But again, watch them back out on episode 10 and try to be like, well, you know, Slappy is actually his own thing. He's possessing Condu's body. You're not going to save this show. It's not getting a season 2. I don't see that. I don't see it happening. I just don't. If it happens, it's out of spite. And I've said that over and over again. It will never hit a season 3, even if it gets a season 2, because no one's watching this show. No one's watching this show but diehard fans, like people that watch my channel or people that watch my friends' channels. We are the only people making this show continue to go on. That's it. But season 2 ain't happening. It's not. The show, this particular episode is not poorly shot, by the way. It doesn't have really anything good about it aside from the guy playing Lucas. But then the episode ends on an even worse note. So Slappy is now the Kondu spirit. Whoever is possessing whoever, the Kondu body gets up out of the coffin and he starts to regenerate from looking like a corpse into looking like Jonathan Chiller from Horrorland. And at this point, like many people, BD Horror was the first one I saw to put up this thing out there in the Discord we all talk in. I'm pretty sure that he's right about this. Every episode title has been things like the previous episode, You Can't Scare Me, had no mud monsters, based on a mud monster book title, but no mud monsters. You had previous episodes called like, Viewer Beware, Reader Beware, something like that. You had junk like that. You had episodes that were named things that had nothing to do with the original books or counterparts or whatever phrase they were mentioning, like Give Yourself Goosebumps. The Give Yourself Goosebumps episode didn't even have Fifi in it, which is why I still think that this episode and episode 10 are tacked onto the season. It kind of feels like when you read Horrorland and you get to like whatever the 12th or 13th book was, the first arc of the series being done, and then they pick up the Jonathan Chiller arc, that's what this feels like it's turning into for the last 2 episodes of the show, which is not a good thing in writing and pacing, man. This final episode ends with this Jonathan Chiller lookalike guy, which is the voice of Slappy, I guess, put in makeup now. He looks like Beethoven. He turns around. Ben, Isaiah's dad, comes in once again to help out Mr. Bratt, to check on him. He basically freezes Mr. Bratt, but I guess turn him into a ventriloquist dummy, but the show is so horribly shot and so horribly color edited, whatever you want to call it, color graded, that's what I'm thinking. It's so horribly color graded that the show is so dark, I can't tell if he turned into a ventriloquist dummy or not. It made like a wood creaking noise, so I assume he's a ventriloquist dummy now. But the show on both episodes, episode 8 and episode 9, and many episodes previous to these, have been so dark in the color grading, some people, if they're in the background in like a hallway, you can barely see them. And this episode has that issue too. If they're outside, you can barely see them. If it's a nighttime scene, which is very rare, you can barely see anybody. It is just horrible, dude. The show is so amateur in how well, or the way it was made. Dude, I'm convinced, if you took like, you know, the different people who make YouTube videos based around Goosebumps, like myself, Completionist, BD Horror, even down to, you know, Spongy, who doesn't make videos often. I'm convinced all of us could have made a better show together or individually than what this piece of crap came in. I refuse to believe we couldn't. I refuse, because of how this turned out. You know, people got to be honest with me. After Jonathan Chiller's corpse or whatever walk out of the building, they didn't call him Jonathan Chiller, just so you know, if I did make that clear enough. They don't call him that, but he's clearly looking just like him. He walks out of the building and Fifi, the vampire dog, follows him. And that's the end of the episode while Mr. Bratt panics over what happened to Ben, Isaiah's dad. And that's the end of the episode. If people cannot tell me that they would, if people couldn't admit that they'd rather have an anthology show over what we got here, I would be in shock. I don't believe you if you say that you like this over an anthology show where we just adapt the old books that never got adapted or readapt some episodes that were adapted. I refuse to believe you if you say otherwise. I refuse. I refuse and I reject people who tell me that. I'm at that point now because that's a lie. I refuse to acknowledge that anymore. And then to add insult to injury, so I'm a massive fan of Alice in Chains. I'm a massive fan of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, which is one of the earliest entries of Alice in Chains in my life, aside from Terminator Salvation. The end of this episode, they decide to drop the song Them Bones. Dude, when I heard that after what I had just seen where they crapped all over Slappy, my mouth hit the ground in my living room upstairs because I couldn't believe what I was seeing between what happened with Slappy and then you have the gall to bring Alice in Chains, one of my favorite metal bands ever, into this piece of crap garbaggio, as my friend BD says. I cannot believe that you have the gall to put them in this trash heap. Do not bring Alice in Chains into your garbage mess, Disney Plus. Do not even touch them. I was so mortified to hear a song that I love so much. What a bunch of losers. It's like when they play the Nine Inch Nails song in the season. Why would you bring that in to something so awful and useless and pathetic and poorly made? Why would you do that? You know, I don't even have things to say. I don't even know what to think at this point. I don't even know what I want to say about this show. I hate it. It's awful. It's horrible, and I cannot believe what they did to Slappy. I'm assuming Slappy is just a dummy at this point. Is there a way that they could read the card and bring back Slappy again? Like with a different voice, different face, different entity possessing him, if that's what's happening here? And like BD said, I forgot to clear this up too, BD had made mention of the final episode being called Horrorland, that it's probably more about this Jonathan Chiller Condu guy bringing horror to the land, like the entire Earth. He's probably right because of what they did with us with the episode stuff. I would be not surprised at all if that ends up being what happens with this. This episode was like episode 2 about the haunted mask all over again. It is shocking to me how horrible this was, and I cannot believe what they did and the choices they made here. I'm convinced AI wrote this. It's very clear that even if it wasn't AI, there is not a single fan of Goosebumps involved with this show. I refuse to believe it. By the way, this episode had a cameo of R.L. Stine reading something on an audiobook podcast thing. That was kind of cool. I like how they took like his portfolio picture and kind of modified it with some Photoshop AI art stuff. Kind of cute. I miss R.L. Stine. He's not dead. I just miss him. I just miss seeing him on Goosebumps on the old episodes. Like I rewatched in October, Halloween or Haunted Mask 1 and 2. I love seeing him. It's good to just know he's there. When you see the Goosebumps movie, the first one from 2015, it's good to see him there, you know? But I love him. Really cool guy. This show, not a cool guy. This show is garbage. So I don't have anything else to say. Just Disney, do not bring Alice in Chains into this. I'm sure they loved the money that you gave them, but I'm sure knowing you probably did an AI version where you didn't have to pay them or something. Anyway, so with all that being said, that's my rant for episode 9 of season 1, Night of the Living Dummy Part 2. What a horrible show. What a horrible show, man. I don't even know what to think about this. Like, it just... Why would you make something like this? Why would you do this as the first rendition of Goosebumps in like 5 years since the previous movie? My nose itches. Why would you do this of all things? Why would you think this is the direction to go with Goosebumps? And specifically with a monster that people love deeply like Slappy. I know it's okay to change things up sometimes, but why would you choose to do this? Dude, I don't even know what to say anymore. This show is awful. I cannot wait for season 10 to be out of the way and for my season review to be out of the way and maybe even a ranking episodes video. I don't know what I'm going to do, but this was awful. I hate this so much. I don't even have words for it, dude. BD had told me, and so did Completionist, and I think even Grayson had said this, that they told me I would hate this episode. I did not expect what kind of thing I saw in here. If they make a season 2, if they go that route, which I'm convinced that will not happen, but if they chose to, you'd be a fool to follow this episode and this season. I mean, episode 10's coming up at the end of the week, obviously, but you'd be a fool to follow up with this season adding on to it. That would be the worst choice you could ever make. You need to move on. You need to make a new season with new characters, kind of like an American Horror Story type of idea, of every season being its own secluded story. You need to do that, because this is... Dude, if you come in there making an extension of this season, you've already ruined it. It's going to piss people off even more because you've already ruined all of the monsters people really, really, really care about for this season. You can't do any justice to it from this point on. So anyway, I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm done. I hate this episode. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I want to pretend like it doesn't exist and like this show doesn't exist once it's over. Eventually, this will be pulled down from Disney+. We all know it. It's going to happen. I'm watching it on Hulu, but you know what I mean. Anyway, have you seen Goosebumps 2023's Season 1, Episode 9, Night of the Living Dummy Part 2? What did you think about it? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments about it down below. For Slappy stans like myself, what did you think about the changes to Slappy here? We already had quite a few changes, now we have this, and I don't even know what to think, man. I don't even know what to think. I just hate it so deeply that I just want to act like it doesn't exist, to be honest with you. If I had to rate this episode, I guess, on a 5-star basis, it's poorly shot for the most part. It's cheaply shot for the most part, using the Mr. Brat house again. It's an insult to Slappy fans. It's an insult to Mr. Brat fans. And personally, I hope Justin Long never has to come back for this garbage. I hope he's not signed on to some contract that he has to keep coming back, because you wasted Justin Long. He's a phenomenal actor, and you've completely wasted this man who could have really made the show even better. You know, I don't even think he's carrying the show. He's not good in it because of the bad directing and the bad writing. These actors and actresses playing the young kids, they've been wasted. I think all of them could probably be fairly talented for the most part, or fairly funny, but they haven't had a moment of it to shine in this show, aside from the guy playing Lucas. It's a shame, man. It really is. But at the end of the day, this is awful. If I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, I can't give this episode more than a 1 out of 5 stars. I hate it. It's just as bad as episode 1 and episode 2 and episode 3, which I find to be some of the most insulting episodes of the season, aside from, like, wasn't it like episode 7 or like episode 5 or something that was so incredibly boring that nothing happened there either? It seems like this show is just filled with talking and useless crap. I think episode 7 was the one where they were stuck in the house still for like the whole episode, the Mr. Brat house in the other world or whatever you want to call it. And that was insultingly bad. This show is just, it's a boring CW relationship riddled piece of crap that no one wants to watch. I can't believe people are trying to tell themselves they like this. If you like it, again, that's fine. I don't care. But I cannot believe people like this, especially after this episode. The fact that people want a season 2 after this episode, you're nuts. I'm going to give a little bit of a prophetic motion here. I have a feeling that after this episode, if I genuinely checked online, I have a feeling that people from this point on, now that they've ruined Slappy, because to me there's a lot more Slappy stands than there are for Haunted Mask, despite the quality of Haunted Mask over top of Slappy books. I have a feeling from this point on is where you'll start to hear the bots and the shills and the Disney adults and whatever start to change their tune about the show. That's what I predict. I know it premiered last week, maybe it's already happened, I don't know, but I have a feeling by the end of episode 10 and within a couple of months of the show ending, maybe even a year after the show ended, I have a feeling you'll start hearing people changing their tune and talking about how awful this show was and how, oh, well, it was always bad. I was the only one who hated it. No, I've seen some of you in my comment section talking about how much you like this show, and that's fine if you like it now. People change their minds, that's cool, but I'm convinced there are bots out there. I'm convinced of that. Anyway, so with all that being said, 1 out of 5 stars for me. I hate this. I hate it so passionately, you have no idea. What I showed here was just a small glimpse of the way I felt in my living room upstairs a moment ago as I watched this horrible 40 or 45 minute long episode of a show that I hate deeply. Good God, I would pay good money to watch some of my favorite YouTubers like Razor Fist or Rambo Raff for Life watch this. I would. I would pay so much money to watch them watch this. Just to see the reactions, man. Anyway, what do you think about the show? Put your thoughts and comments down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. This week is the final episode. Again, in a couple of days, we get episode 10. I'm going to try to be on time this time and actually watch it and review it. I have to work this weekend, so it's going to be a little busy. So, because next week's Thanksgiving, so I have a lot of makeup time I have to do to take care of that stuff at my job. And so I may or may not have videos out this weekend for like the season ranking or the season review or anything like that. I don't know yet, but for now, just tune in there, just hang in there. I'll try to have some content for you. That episode 10 review I should have up on Friday, God willing, everything goes well. But we'll see, won't we? Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you so much. Sorry for all the ranting and rambling in this episode review, but man, I hate this so much. I hate this so deeply, I just can't even express it enough to you. What did you think about it? Put your thoughts and comments down below. Once again, I'd love to hear everything you all have to say about it. By the way, it's coming up Thanksgiving next week. Once again, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have a great one. Travel safely if I don't talk to you by then. And God bless you guys. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your thoughts and comments down in the comment section down below. And I appreciate your support, man, where we recently hit the 4,000 subs mark. You guys rule. I'm super thankful for you. And just let me know what you think. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts about this trash heap down in the comment section down below. Anyway, God bless you guys. Goodbye.